Napoleon Bonaparte. You hear the name, and what comes to mind? For some, he's this brilliant general who, saved France. But for others, he's a power-hungry dictator. So how are we supposed to make sense of a figure who was, well, both a nation's savior and its tyrant? That's the puzzle we're going to try and piece together today. So was he the hero, the guy who pulled an entire nation back from the brink of total collapse? Or was he a tyrant who basically sacrificed liberty for his own ambition? The thing is, it really all depends on the lens you use. And right now, we're about to look through both of them. All right, so to even begin to understand why anyone would see him as a savior, we've got to do a little time travel. We have to see the world through their eyes. So let's step back into the 1800s and really look at the chaos that made a man like Napoleon not just possible, but in the eyes of so many, absolutely necessary. And this right here, this is the key to the whole thing. See, before you get to Napoleon the leader, you have to understand France in chaos. The French Revolution, it didn't exactly deliver a stable republic like everyone hoped. Instead, it created this massive power vacuum, and the stage was just perfectly set for a strongman to walk right on. Yeah, post-revolutionary France was, well, it was anything but a peaceful utopia. We're talking about a nation in total crisis. Think about it. Years of political chaos, violence just everywhere, and a government that felt like it was about to collapse at any second. The country was literally tearing itself apart. And this quote, man, this really gets to the heart of how people were feeling back then. After years of terror and just complete uncertainty, people were exhausted, totally drained. They craved stability more than anything else. And I mean anything. Even if it meant giving up some of those very freedoms they had just fought a whole revolution to win. So into all of this chaos steps Napoleon. And he didn't just grab power, he started building. He established the Napoleonic Code, this unified legal system that was so effective, parts of it are still influential today. He fixed the completely broken tax system, and he created a government that was actually efficient, centralized. To put it simply, he brought order. And the results of all this, they were huge and they were fast. He restored that stability everyone was so desperate for, but he also gave France something it had lost, a real sense of national pride. The economy started to recover. I mean, for a lot of people living in France at that time, this must have felt like an absolute miracle. Okay, but that's only half the story, right? Because if we stop judging him by the standards of his time and start judging him by our standards, a very, very different picture starts to emerge. So let's flip the script, apply a modern lens, and take a look at the tyrant. So what exactly are these modern standards we're talking about? Well, just think about what we expect from our leaders today. Things like freedom of speech, the right to participate in our own government, the protection of our individual rights. This is the basic framework we use to measure power now. Right. And when you take that modern framework and hold it up to Napoleon, wow, his authoritarian toolkit comes into sharp focus. He censored newspapers, he totally crushed any criticism of his rule, and he used a secret police to keep everyone in line. He systematically pulled all the power into his own hands, gutting the very civil liberties the revolution was supposed to be about. And believe me, his ambition didn't just stop at the French borders. His obsession with building this grand empire led to aggressive, constant warfare. The Napoleonic Wars caused just unimaginable destruction and death all across Europe. That's a legacy of bloodshed you just can't ignore. So here we are, left with two completely opposing verdicts, hero and tyrant. How do we possibly reconcile them? Well, the answer lies in one of the most important ideas in all of history: context. It's all about understanding that both of these things can be true at the same exact time. Look, this chart really shows the fundamental conflict, doesn't it? His era valued stability, order, and national pride way above everything else. Our modern world, we prioritize individual rights, free speech, and democracy. Now, neither of these ways of thinking is inherently wrong, they're just products of their time. Napoleon delivered exactly what his era was demanding, but in doing so, he trampled all over the principles that our time holds most sacred. Yeah, this quote just puts it perfectly. He was a leader admired in his era for restoring order, yet criticized today for limiting rights and expanding his power. It's that exact contradiction, that duality, that makes him such a fascinating and, well, endlessly compelling figure to study. When you really get down to it, this isn't just a lesson about Napoleon. It's bigger than that. It's a really powerful lesson in how we should approach judging the past, period. It's about learning how to apply some historical empathy without totally abandoning our own moral compass. So, what's the crucial point here? The main takeaway? It's that understanding both the historical context and our own modern values is absolutely essential. It doesn't mean we have to excuse tyranny or anything like that, but what it does do is allow us to arrive at a more complete, more nuanced judgment. It lets us see the whole picture, not just one side of the coin. And that brings us to one last pretty challenging thought. It kind of forces us to turn that same lens back on ourselves. When you think about the values and the crises of our own time, how do you think future generations are going to judge the leaders of today?